Hi there, my name is Agustin Caroso and welcome to our station. So in this episode we're going to talk about 10 UI principles. So a website is not only a collection of links and pages, it is a living space, a digital space, where the users' needs and wants meet the creators' products and services. And it is our job as web designers to facilitate their interaction and to make it as smooth as possible, right? And in order, there's a lot of things that go into UX and UI. Because it's a field of study that mixes human psychology with technological procedures, right? So it could take a lifetime to study that. So what I'm gonna do actually is just give you a light review of 10 principles that you can start applying right now on your next project in order to facilitate that experience, all right? So let's get started. Alright, so 10 general principles of web user interface design, presented by me, of course. Alright, number 1, know your audience. This is one of the most important ones. You should always ask yourself these questions, right? Like, what are their goals? What are their challenges? And this is in order for us to understand who's going to be using our website, right? Because there's a huge difference between a young and an old audience. Right, like someone that, as an example, is always on the phone, besides obviously having to develop a website that is mobile responsive, you also need to take into consideration like how fast do they use it, like do they take time to read long stretches of text. If it is an older audience, we're gonna need to use a little bit more of larger text, because there's probably gonna be people using glasses. I don't know, you get the idea, right? Because it's very easy for us as web designers to just create something for us, right? I would use that, right? Yeah, of course. But you should only do that if your final audience is going to be someone that fits your criteria, that is just like you, right? A web designer, an entrepreneur. But most of the time, you're going to be developing for a customer that has a very different audience that you have, right? So take into the consideration that you should know your audience and ask yourself these questions. Second, clarity for your users, right? Like this is a viral image of a website. It's called linkscars.com, and you have no idea what's happening here, right? Like, what is this? What happens if I click anything here, right? Like, but even though you obviously need to make it easy for someone to use your website, you should also answer them this question that they have on their head all of the time. Why should I use this? Why should I even care, right? Like, there's a lot of people that arrive on a website through an external link, and then they find themselves in this weird and wild place without even knowing what to do next. And obviously, you're going to be able to use good hierarchy, right? Because having headings, proper paragraphs, proper divs, and proper links. But at the same time, you should think about the higher picture, right? Like, answer this question: why should I use this? Why should I care? So you should be very, very clear on what's the purpose of the website for your users, right? Second, familiarity. And this is obviously a joke, like it's all over the place. But familiarity comes also with consistency, right? Why is it that almost every single software in the world uses this same system of tabs and navigation, right? Like there's file, home, insert, design. Like most software uses this, and at the same time, most websites uses the same kind of navigation. So you should be very, very aware of because us as designers, we tend to want to create something new, right? But we should not reinvent the wheel when we're talking about good user interaction, user interface, and user experience. And I think the best way to imagine this is when someone creates a website and he thinks to himself, wow, what if I just create this menu, right? That comes in a corner and it's animated, it's super fucking weird, and maybe you're gonna get some Webby awards, but other than that, like the final result of a user interface is to facilitate the experience for the user, not to be pretty. That's why it needs to be consistent. And you need to be aware of when to use consistency and when not, right? And the way that you're not going to use it the same way that you did on your homepage and the about page is when you want your user to know that this is something different, right? If all of your buttons are green and suddenly there's a button that's red, that obviously gives a signal to your user that that button is different, right? So you should learn when to keep it consistent and when to break it in order to make your user understand that this is something different, right? But again, this is this slide is a joke, so you understand that most of the time it pays off to be consistent. 4, ease of use. You should simplify whenever possible, right? And I mean shorter text, using progressive disclosure, and that means having, as an example, having a menu that only shows 3 things. And if someone wants to do something that's a little bit more complicated, they're gonna need to go down that path, right? Like down that hierarchy, they're gonna need to click 2 or 3 times. But if they don't have that need, you're not gonna have your website cluttered with a lot of buttons and a lot of options. So that's what's called progressive disclosure. You'll go progressively, showing off more and more only to those users that actually want that. Yeah, and one beautiful way to have it simple is to create short copy, right? There's a place and time for creating long copy, and that's gonna be on your About Us page. It's gonna be on your blog. But let's say, as an example, in the home page, you need to present your idea in 30 seconds or less, right? Just like a startup pitch. 30-second pitch, an elevator pitch, but not only for understanding and clarity, but also because it's simple and someone's not going to get overwhelmed on your website. If they want to know more, they're going to click on a button on your About page to go there, right? And don't use the learn more technique, which a lot of people say, like, have a very vague idea of what the website is, and then they have a button that says learn more. And then the user asks himself, learn more about what? I'm not understanding anything. Why do I want to learn more? Why? So if you want to actually expand, right, if you want to use progressive disclosure, you should tell what it is that that's gonna happen when they click that button, right? So it's like, click here to learn about our story, right? Or maybe a button that says learn more about our story, or just our story, instead of learn more, right? Like, be a little bit more descriptive. You can be descriptive at the same time that you're simplifying. 5, respect your users, and I mean respecting their time and their attentions. Even more nowadays, right? Because our attention, it's being prostituted all over the internet, all the time. We have a phone, so it's calling our attention. Then we have a friend that's calling us. Then there's a pop-up, right? And there's an ad. There's an ad that's interrupting every single YouTube video. So our attention and our users' attention is very precious. So we should take care of it, right? Like, it's as soon as someone gives us their attention, we should take care of it. So the first rule is do not interrupt, right? Customers are gonna want to come to you and say, let's create 7,000 pop-ups because I want to sell the heck out of my course. I want to sell the heck out of my product. But you, as a wise web designer, you should understand that there's obviously a place and time for that. So you can, of course, use pop-ups, but they need not to be intrusive. They need not to be interrupt someone when they're reading. Like, I hate when I go to a website and I'm reading a long form text, let's say a blog page, and suddenly I'm in the middle of it and a pop-up jumps. So that's wrong. You should respect my time, because I am respecting your website enough that I'm here reading more about you. So I would say create less pop-ups and less ads, right? They can be those ads that are sideways on the sidebars. And I know we're all trying to make ends meet, right? And make money, but we should respect our users' time and attention. So I am very happy when I arrive at a website that doesn't have any ads. So that's, and I'm gonna be faithful to that website because they are respecting my time and my attention. All right, 6, provide next steps. And I want you to be anticipating, to create proactive design. And I mean that you should treat your website as a funnel, right? Like someone arrives on your homepage, where do you want to take them, right? Like what do you want them to do? If someone is interested in your services, if someone is interested more in your website, like where would they go? Obviously that person knows there's a lot of links, but which one should they go first? So I love those websites that they know that they are super complex because they're trying to explain a complex process, but they have a page that's called Start Here, click here. So I always go there and I am immediately funneled down to where the creator and the designer want me to go. So another tip would be to have one action per screen, right? To have what in the marketing world we call a CTA, a call to action, right? So if after a blog post someone likes it, you should have the option down below to say, click here to read more blog posts in this with these tags, or click here to schedule a call. So that's where nowadays it's the funnels are very famous, right? Like landing pages, and then immediately you take them to another page, and then to another page, and then to an email, and then to a webinar. And that's why they're famous, and that's why marketers are making a lot of money, because they're telling people what to do, and it flows very smoothly. And us as web designers, we can and should learn from that. All right, 7, setting expectations. So what's gonna happen when I click? When I scroll? That's another question that your users are asking themselves, right? And we can tell them even before they did anything what's going to happen. And we can do that through design, and we can do that through copy, right? Through text. So through design, it could be something as simple as highlighting buttons as soon as they hover over it, using green and red, right? Because green means go, red means stops. So red could be delete. As in the same vein, you could use a common icon, just like the trash can icon, to mean delete, right? And this goes a bit, again, to consistency, right? Like there's a time to innovate, and it's not right now. And in copy, it's just literally by telling them, all right, if you click this, this is going to happen. So it's like, do you really want, click here to submit your information, a green button with a check mark. So that's very, very clear what's gonna happen. They don't need to guess, because as soon as your visitor is guessing, they don't want to have that mental trouble. They're gonna leave. They're gonna bounce. 8, give feedback. And I mean that either by confirmation or error, like something that you did is right or something that you did is wrong. And nowadays, most of the digital forms, like a website form, they have this where whenever you click confirm and send the data, the form is automatically going to give you a pop-up or refresh the page that says, hooray, you sent your email and everything went smoothly. And in the same way, oh no, this is an error message, a red tag that says something is wrong here, please input your information again. And this also fits when we're talking about loading animations. If your website is taking a long time to load, you should tell your user that it is loading. Like like nobody wants to wait and not know what's happening. Like, did the website load? What's gonna happen next? But anything that we're using right here should be fast, right? Even that loading animation, the confirmation or error or any kind of button interactivity like the hover and the press state should work very fast. And that's not only for your final user to make the experience as smooth as possible, but also for Google, because Google has tiny bots that crawl through your website, and they're gonna tell Google this website actually takes 5 to 6 seconds to load, and there are interactions that are eating this person's seconds. So they're gonna give your website an SEO score very, very low, which in turn is gonna be bad for your client and bad for you, bad for SEO, bad, right? So give feedback, but make it fast. Number 9, invisible design. This is for us that want to, obviously us as designer would like to create amazing things. And we want to be recognized for creating amazing things. But the thing with user interfaces is most of the time, if someone notices, you're doing it wrong. It's just like a windshield of a car, right? You want the driver to be focused on the road, not on wow, look at the color of this windshield, and this windshield has a screen, an app that shows the weather. And that's just interrupting, right? So you should focus on the goals of the user that accesses your website, not on the interface itself. And yeah, sadly, don't expect awards for creating amazing UI. And number 10, keep improving. And that means doing user testing, gathering user feedback, also gathering feedback from other designers, and keep learning and applying, which I commend you, because you're already doing that. You're trying to know more, to learn more. And this is a thing that us designers are doing all the time, which is learning. But we also, if I had to say categorizing this in most important to less important, I would say the number one is user testing and user feedback, because this is why you're creating your website or your app, right? You want them to have a good experience. Then if you have time, gather feedback from other designers, and then if you have time, keep learning and applying what you're doing, right? Thank you so much for staying this. I know I ramble a lot. This is my style of teaching. If you had some value in this video, consider subscribing to my channel, giving my video a like, and maybe sharing this video to another web designer. And if you're interested in more UI tutorials and more Webflow tutorials and more Figma and design tutorials, please stay tuned and press the notification bell, because I'm gonna keep releasing awesome content for you guys. All right, talk to you in the next video. Bye bye.